All right, it's here. This is the DJI Avata 2. I've been meaning to try an FPV drone for a while now. I've been having clients ask for it, so it's time to see if I can fly a DJI Avata 2. I've been flying the Mavic series for quite a while. Can I fly FPV? Let's find out. Hey, my name is Mark Bergering. I'm a photographer and filmmaker. I do practical gear reviews here on YouTube, so if you haven't already, please hit the subscribe button. It really helps out the channel. Let's get to the review. So we got this nice little carrying case here. We got the controller, battery pack, goggles, and the drone. Let's check it all out. All right, so I got this thing all set up. I updated the firmware, make sure to connect the motion controller, the goggles, and the drone last night, went through all the menus and got familiar with the interface. If you're expecting to pull this out of the box and go fly immediately, change that expectation, because there's quite a bit of setup and you have to get comfortable with the interface before you can actually go fly. All right, so I'm 3 flights in with the DJI Avata 2, and this drone is awesome, but kind of tricky to fly. It flies super fast once you take it out of beginner mode and you crank the throttle, which is exciting and fun, but also pretty intimidating, and you have to have pretty quick reflexes to be able to avoid a crash. Overall, pretty excited about it, but I would say as a beginner drone, it's tricky. I'm super comfortable on my Mavic 3, but this is a completely different style of drone, and I'm not sure how I feel about it yet. It's super fun to be able to fly through, I was playing around flying through some tighter gaps and just messing around with some timing, but it's just a completely different thing. It's much more immersive. The goggles are completely closed in. You can only see what's in front of you, which is great if you are flying forwards, but it's also tricky to just kind of have a sense of space and know where you are. Those are my initial thoughts on the Avata 2. Gonna keep playing with it, keep flying it, and see how things go. So I just finished flying around in the forest here. So this thing is completely different than any other drone I've flown. I've never flown an FPV drone. There's a lot to it, and it's challenging. I don't know if flying with a more traditional style controller with the 2 sticks as opposed to this motion controller would be any easier, but this thing just felt a little bit sensitive, a little bit erratic. Maybe I need to tune the expo settings on this thing, but I was just finding myself being a little bit jittery and a little bit tricky to navigate through the trees. I do like that this thing provides an immersive perspective, and it's really fun to fly. I could see using it in some of my action sports work where I want to follow an athlete, and it's more of, I'm not going to fly my Mavic 3 through tight spaces or in a confined zone or where I might bump into somebody. These propellers on the Avata 2 are more protected, so there's much less risk when you're flying close to somebody doing an interesting activity. Whereas with the Mavic 3, if you hit somebody with that, it's gonna hurt. Although it's a little tricky, I really like that this thing is fun to fly. It's genuinely interesting to fly in and around things, through little gaps, wrap around subjects, and it just provides an immersive perspective. And it's really a lot of fun to fly. Now, to be honest, I do a lot of work with my Mavic 3 for photo, video production. I'm just not sure I see the Avata 2 fitting into that workflow. Because of the steep learning curve and because I am a more traditional drone pilot, if I need somebody to fly FPV, I'm gonna need somebody who does it regularly and often. I'm gonna need somebody who's really good at it, and I'm probably gonna have to contract that out. Let's head back into the studio. I wanted to share a few final thoughts on the DJI Avata 2. So to wrap up my review of the DJI Avata 2, I wanted to quickly run through some of my standard points that I like to hit on a review. We're gonna quickly talk through specs, build quality and appearance, ergonomics and handling, image quality, low light performance, overall performance, some useful features about this drone, some alternatives, and value. So I'll throw a few specs on the screen here. Overall, I think the specs on this drone are pretty impressive. Giving you 4K 60 is a solid option. You get some slow-mo. You don't get 4K 120, but I think that's gonna be about all you're gonna get out of such a compact sensor and still get some good looking images. In terms of the build and appearance of this drone, it seems super well built. I crashed it twice already and no issues, hardly a scratch on the thing, and I just kept flying. In fact, in one of the collisions, it literally just hit a branch, flipped, and kept flying. It's, I would say, pretty stylish, pretty sleek, and pretty durable looking drone. Now let's talk ergonomics and handling. That's something that I struggled with, was just being able to fly this thing well. But in terms of the functionality, turning it on and off, getting the batteries in and out, it seems really well designed. It's similar to what you might expect from DJI in their other latest models. This gimbal cover is super easy to use. Generally, it's really well designed and well thought out. I think the image quality on this drone is solid. It's giving you good resolution without going overboard with the specs, which is just gonna bump up the price. It would be cool if they, could put a little bit more resolution into it, like the GoPro or any of the other action cameras that you see out there are often doing, 5.3K, slightly above that 4K number, but 4K is totally solid and acceptable. In terms of low light performance, that's not really what this drone is suited for. I don't think you're gonna be wowed by any of the nighttime footage that you see. I'm sure it does okay, but again, it's such a small sensor that it's not gonna be performing similar to what you might expect from, say, the Mavic 3 Pro. Overall performance, I was impressed with how powerful this drone was. Despite that, I felt like it struggled a bit in the wind. Usually in Colorado this season, it's quite windy, but I was out on some, I would say, moderately windy days, and it definitely struggled in the wind. It drifts, and it just becomes a little bit harder to maneuver and control. Other features that I think are cool, they really promoted the easy acro stuff on this drone. And while I don't think that doing a forward or backward flip or a sideways flip is that useful in terms of content creation, I do like the flip around maneuver. So you're flying forward and then you hit one button and it flips backwards and keeps flying. I think that's just a really cool way to showcase bypassing, say, somebody riding a bike or running. You can fly past them, flip around, and then get the other perspective from the other direction. In terms of alternatives to this drone, there's the DJI Avata 1, which is probably gonna be at a lower price point now. That gives you an option. But other than that, FPV drones are kind of known in the category of build it yourself, do it yourself. There's not a lot of out-of-the-box, ready-to-fly options. At around $1,200 for an out-of-the-box FPV drone seems like a reasonable option, but for me, it's just not really my style. As you can see, I struggled a little bit to fly it, and it's not really the drone of choice for me. I think this drone's gonna be a lot of fun for a lot of people. People are gonna really enjoy working with it, capturing cool footage, but for me, it's just not, it doesn't fit into my workflow. So I don't think this is a tremendously exceptional value for me, and I don't think I'll be keeping it. So if you made it to the end of the video, I really appreciate you being here. Please do me a favor, go down, hit that subscribe button. It really helps out the channel, and I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.